The grand ballroom of the Marriott downtown Seattle was transformed into a winter wonderland. For Davidson Industries' annual employee holiday party on December 15, 2025, crystal chandeliers cast warm light over elegantly dressed employees, while a live jazz band played softly in the corner. It was the kind of corporate celebration that cost more than many people made in a year, designed to show appreciation for the company's 2,000 employees. 55-year-old Maria Santos adjusted her black dress nervously as she entered the ballroom. As a custodial supervisor who had worked for Davidson Industries for 12 years, she rarely attended these fancy events, but this year her supervisor had insisted that all department heads participate in the festivities. Maria called out Jennifer Walsh, a friendly HR manager who had always treated the cleaning staff with respect. "You look beautiful. I'm so glad you decided to come." "Thank you, Jennifer. It's overwhelming," Maria admitted, looking around at the opulent decorations and well-dressed executives. "Have you seen your son tonight?" Jennifer asked. "I thought I saw him earlier, but I wasn't sure." Maria's face lit up with pride and concern. "Yes, Michael is working in the kitchen tonight. He picked up an extra shift washing dishes to help pay for his college textbooks next semester." What Maria didn't know was that her 26-year-old son, Michael, wasn't just working in the kitchen. He was conducting the most important employee evaluation of his career as the CEO of Davidson Industries. 3 months earlier, Michael Davidson had inherited the company from his grandfather, Thomas Davidson, who had built the tech consulting firm from nothing into a billion-dollar enterprise. But Michael had spent the years since his MBA working in various entry-level positions throughout the company, learning the business from the ground up under an assumed name, Michael Santos, using his mother's maiden name. Tonight, wearing a stained apron and non-slip shoes, Michael was invisible to the executives who would normally compete for his attention. He had been working as a dishwasher for 6 weeks, and what he had discovered about his company's culture had both shocked and disappointed him. "Santos," barked Chef Rodriguez from the kitchen, "Table 12 needs more champagne glasses, and the VIP section is running low on appetizer plates. Move it." Michael nodded and loaded a cart with clean glasses, pushing it toward the ballroom's service entrance. As he worked, he observed the interactions between management and lower-level employees with the keen eye of someone who understood that corporate culture was revealed not in mission statements, but in how people treated those they perceived as powerless. "Excuse me," a well-dressed woman in her 40s called out imperiously as Michael arranged glasses on a service table. "Are you supposed to be out here? This is for employees, not kitchen staff." Michael looked up to see Sandra Blackwell, the vice president of operations, someone who reported directly to him in his real role. Though she had no idea who he was. "I'm just restocking glasses." "Ma'am," Michael replied politely. "Well, be quick about it, and try not to make so much noise with those carts. This is supposed to be an elegant event." Michael nodded and continued his work, making mental notes about Sandra's attitude toward service workers. This wasn't the first time he had witnessed her dismissive behavior, but experiencing it firsthand gave him new perspective on what his employees endured daily. From across the room, he spotted his mother talking with a group of other custodial staff who had worked up the courage to attend. Maria was animated, clearly enjoying the rare opportunity to socialize with colleagues in a setting that acknowledged their contributions to the company. "Maria Santos," announced the DJ suddenly. "Could Maria Santos please come to the front of the room?" Michael watched with growing anxiety as his mother made her way through the crowd, looking confused and slightly worried. The company's interim CEO, Robert Chen, who was managing operations until Michael officially took over, stepped up to the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," Robert announced, "tonight we want to recognize some special employees who exemplify the Davidson Industries values of dedication, integrity, and service. Maria Santos has been with our company for 12 years, and in that time, she has consistently gone above and beyond her duties." Michael felt his chest swell with pride as Robert continued. "Maria not only supervises our custodial team with exceptional skill, but she also started a recycling program that has saved the company over $100. Zero annually. She's mentored new employees, covered extra shifts during emergencies, and has never once complained about the long hours or difficult working conditions. The crowd applauded politely, though Michael noticed that several executives looked at their phones rather than paying attention to Maria's recognition. As a token of our appreciation, Robert continued, "We're pleased to present Maria with a $5,000 bonus and a plaque recognizing her outstanding service." Michael watched his mother's face transform with shock and joy. He knew that $5,000 would cover Michael's textbooks for the entire year and help with their rent, which had been a constant worry since Maria's husband had passed away 3 years earlier. But what happened next made Michael's blood boil. As Maria returned to her table, beaming with happiness, he overheard Sandra Blackwell talking to a group of executives. $5,000 for a janitor? Sandra laughed. "I spend more than that on a weekend in Napa. It's ridiculous how we throw money at these people for doing jobs that anyone could do." "Well," replied James Morrison, the director of sales, "it's good PR. Makes the company look like we care about the little people." "The little people?" Sandra scoffed, as if picking up trash requires any special skill or intelligence. Michael had heard enough. In his role as dishwasher, he had worked alongside the custodial staff and had seen firsthand the complexity of their work, the pride they took in maintaining the company's facilities, and the respect they deserved but rarely received. He also realized that in 3 months of working in various entry-level positions, he had learned more about his company's real culture than in all the executive reports and board meetings he had attended as the heir apparent. As he loaded dirty plates onto his cart and headed back to the kitchen, Michael was already planning the changes he would implement when he revealed his true identity. Some of those changes would be welcome surprises for dedicated employees like his mother. Others would be unwelcome wake-up calls for executives who had forgotten that a company's success depended on every person who contributed to its mission. The annual employee party was about to become much more significant than anyone had anticipated, especially for those who thought no one was watching their behavior toward the invisible workers who kept Davidson Industries running smoothly. As the evening progressed, Michael continued his dual role as dishwasher and undercover CEO, gathering intelligence that would shape his leadership decisions for years to come. From his position in the kitchen and service areas, he had a unique vantage point to observe the company's social dynamics. Without the filter of executive politeness, Michael, his mother approached him during a brief break, her face still glowing from the recognition she had received. "I can't believe what happened tonight. $5,000. This will help so much with your school expenses." Michael felt a familiar pang of guilt about his deception. His mother had worked multiple jobs to support his education, never knowing that he was actually the heir to a billion-dollar company. But he had insisted on earning his position through merit rather than birthright, a decision his grandfather had supported before his death. "I'm proud of you, Mom," Michael said genuinely. "You deserve that recognition and so much more." "You know what makes me happiest?" Maria said, her eyes sparkling. "It's not just the money. It's that they noticed. For 12 years I've cleaned these offices, fixed broken fixtures, and made sure everything runs smoothly. Sometimes I felt invisible, but tonight they saw me." Michael's heart ached as he realized how much his mother had longed for simple acknowledgement of her contributions. It reinforced his growing understanding that employee satisfaction wasn't just about paychecks. It was about dignity, respect, and feeling valued as human beings. "Santos," Chef Rodriguez called out, "we need more wine glasses in the VIP section. And be careful, those are worth more than your weekly salary." As Michael loaded the cart and headed back into the ballroom, he noticed that the party had evolved into distinct social clusters. Executives mingled with other executives, middle management stayed within their comfort zones, and service employees like his mother remained primarily at tables near the back of the room. Delivering glasses to the VIP section, Michael overheard a conversation that made him stop in his tracks. "I still can't believe they gave that cleaning lady $5,000. Sandra Blackwell was saying to Regional Director Patricia Hamilton. "Do you know what we could do with that money in our department? Well, Patricia replied, at least we don't have to worry about budget cuts affecting real employees. I heard from Robert Chen that the new CEO Davidson's grandson is going to focus on efficiency improvements. That probably means trimming the fat in departments like custodial and maintenance. Michael's jaw tightened. These executives were discussing firing hardworking people like his mother based on rumors and assumptions about his priorities. Speaking of the new CEO, Sandra continued, has anyone actually met him? I heard he's some spoiled rich kid who went to Harvard and has never worked a real day in his life. Probably another trust fund baby who thinks running a company is like playing a video game, added James Morrison, joining the conversation. These inherited positions never work out well for actual employees. Michael was taking mental notes of every word, every assumption, every dismissive comment about both him and his workers. He was beginning to understand that his company had developed a toxic culture at the executive level that treated employees as expendable resources rather than valuable human beings. His observations were interrupted by commotion near the main entrance. An older gentleman in an expensive suit was arguing loudly with Jennifer Walsh from HR. I don't care if he's on the guest list, the man was saying. Kitchen staff shouldn't be mixing with real employees at these events. It's inappropriate. Michael recognized the man as Douglas Fairfax, the Director of Corporate Affairs, and realized he was talking about Tony Martinez, one of the kitchen staff who had stepped out to get some air. Mr. Fairfax, Jennifer replied diplomatically. The invitation clearly stated that all employees were welcome, all employees with dignity and proper attire. Douglas interrupted. Look at him, he's wearing a uniform shirt and has sauce stains. This reflects poorly on the company's image. Michael had seen enough. Despite the risk of exposing his cover, he couldn't stand by while a hard-working employee was humiliated. Excuse me, Michael said, approaching the group with his cart of dishes. Is there a problem here? Douglas turned to him with disgust. Great, another kitchen worker. Yes, there's a problem. You people need to stay in your designated areas. You people, Michael repeated, his voice dangerously calm. Service workers, you're here to work, not to socialize. There's a hierarchy in this company, and you need to respect it. Michael glanced at Tony, who looked embarrassed and hurt, then back at Douglas. And what exactly is your position in this hierarchy, Mr. Fairfax? Douglas looked, surprised that a dishwasher would know his name or dare to question him. I'm the Director of Corporate Affairs, and I have the authority to remove disruptive individuals from company events. I see, Michael said thoughtfully. And in your expert opinion, what makes someone disruptive? Working hard to ensure this event runs smoothly, contributing to the company's success through honest labor, or simply existing in a space where you think they don't belong? A small crowd had gathered to watch this unusual confrontation between an executive and a dishwasher. Jennifer Walsh looked nervous, Tony appeared mortified, and Douglas was turning red with indignation. How dare you speak to me that way? Douglas sputtered. I'll have you fired for insubordination. That's an interesting threat, Michael replied calmly. But before you follow through on it, you might want to consider whether your behavior tonight reflects the company values that were mentioned in the opening remarks, specifically the parts about respect and integrity. The crowd was growing larger, and Michael noticed that his mother had appeared at the edge of the group, looking worried about her son confronting a company executive. Michael, Maria called out softly, please don't cause trouble. We need these jobs. Michael looked at his mother, then at Tony, then at the crowd of employees who were watching this confrontation with intense interest. He realized that this moment could define not just his own future, but the future of every employee who had ever felt dismissed, overlooked, or treated as less than human by the company's leadership. In a few hours, he would reveal his true identity and begin implementing the changes his undercover work had shown him were necessary. But right now, in this moment, he was just Michael Santos, dishwasher, standing up for the dignity of working people everywhere. You're right, Mom, Michael said quietly. We do need these jobs. All of us do. And that's exactly why conversations like this matter. The tension in the ballroom was palpable as more employees gathered around the confrontation between Michael and Douglas Fairfax. Word had spread quickly through the party that a dishwasher was standing up to one of the company's most intimidating executives, and people were watching with a mixture of fascination and fear. "You want to talk about company values?" Douglas said, his voice rising. "Let me tell you about real company values: respect for authority, understanding your place in the organization, not causing scenes at important company events." Michael looked around at the faces surrounding them: custodial workers, kitchen staff, administrative assistants, and lower-level managers who rarely had a voice in company decisions. He saw fear in some faces, hope in others, and recognition in his mother's eyes that her son was about to do something that could change their lives forever. "Mr. Fairfax," Michael said calmly, "you mentioned respect for authority, but what about authority's respect for the people who make this company successful? What about recognizing that every person here, from the CEO to the newest dishwasher, contributes something valuable? Philosophy from a dish boy." Douglas scoffed. "This is exactly why there are hierarchies. Some people are meant to think and lead, others are meant to follow orders and wash dishes." "Interesting perspective," Michael replied. "So, in your opinion, someone's worth is determined by their job title rather than their character, work ethic, or contributions?" Jennifer Walsh stepped forward, clearly uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. "Gentlemen, perhaps we could continue this discussion in a more private setting." "No," Michael said firmly, surprising everyone with his authority. "I think this conversation needs to happen right here, right now, in front of everyone." He turned to address the growing crowd directly. "How many of you have been told that you should know your place in this company? How many have been treated as if your work doesn't matter because it's not done from a corner office?" Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Several employees nodded, and Michael could see recognition in their faces. "You see," Michael continued, "Mr. Fairfax represents a fundamental misunderstanding about what makes a company successful. He thinks it's about hierarchy and authority, but I've learned something different." "And what exactly has a dishwasher learned?" Douglas asked mockingly. "I've learned that Maria Santos," Michael gestured toward his mother, "has probably saved this company more money through her recycling initiative than most executives earn in salary. I've learned that Tony Martinez works 16-hour days during busy periods to ensure every event runs perfectly. I've learned that the people Mr. Fairfax wants to exclude from this party are often the ones who make it possible." Sandra Blackwell pushed through the crowd, her face flushed with alcohol and indignation. "This is ridiculous. We're letting kitchen help lecture us about business." "Douglas, just fire him and end this embarrassment." "Gladly," Douglas replied. "You're terminated. Effective immediately. Security will escort you out." Michael smiled, a calm, confident expression that confused everyone watching. "That's an interesting decision, Mr. Fairfax, but you might want to reconsider." "And why would I do that?" "Because," Michael said, reaching into his back pocket and pulling out his phone, "I think there's someone you should speak with before making any personnel decisions tonight." He dialed a number, and within seconds, Robert Chen's voice could be heard through the speaker. "Michael, what's wrong? You weren't supposed to call unless there was an emergency." "There's an emergency, Robert. I need you to come to the ballroom immediately and bring my ID badge." Douglas looked confused. "What's going on here?" The crowd had grown to include nearly half the party attendees, and conversations had stopped throughout the ballroom as people strained to understand what was happening. Robert Chen appeared within minutes, looking flustered and carrying a leather portfolio. When he saw Michael standing in his dishwasher uniform, surrounded by a crowd of employees, his expression shifted from confusion to understanding. "Ladies and gentlemen," Robert announced, his voice carrying clearly through the now silent ballroom, "I'd like you to meet Michael Davidson, the CEO of Davidson Industries." The silence that followed was deafening. Employees stared at Michael in shock. Executives' faces went pale, and Douglas Fairfax looked like he was having a heart attack. Michael removed his apron and accepted the ID badge and business card that Robert handed him. "Thank you, Robert. I think it's time for some introductions." He turned to face Douglas, who was now visibly trembling. "Mr. Fairfax, you were saying something about firing me?" Douglas opened and closed his mouth several times, without making any sound. Sandra Blackwell had gone completely white and was backing away from the crowd. For the past 3 months, Michael announced to the assembled employees, I've been working in various entry-level positions throughout this company. I've been a data entry clerk, a maintenance assistant, a customer service representative, and for the past 6 weeks, a dishwasher. I wanted to understand how this company really operates, not just how it looks from the executive floor. Maria Santos stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. Michael, you're the CEO. I'm your son first, Mom. The CEO thing is just my day job. The ballroom erupted in amazed chatter as employees processed this revelation. Michael raised his hand for quiet. I've learned a lot during my time working alongside all of you. He continued, I've learned about the dedication of people like my mother, who go far beyond their job descriptions because they care about this company. I've learned about the innovation that happens at every level when people feel valued and heard. And I've also learned about the toxic attitudes that some executives have toward the very people who make their success possible. Douglas Fairfax finally found his voice. Mr. Davidson, I had no idea. I was just trying to maintain appropriate standards. Mr. Fairfax, Michael interrupted. You're fired. Effective immediately. Ms. Blackwell, you're also terminated. Security will escort you both out. The crowd watched in stunned silence as 2 of the company's most senior executives were led away by security guards who had arrived with Robert Chen. Michael turned back to the remaining employees, his voice warm but authoritative. Tomorrow morning, we're going to begin implementing some changes to how this company operates. Changes based on what I've learned working beside you. Changes that recognize that every person here deserves respect, opportunity, and a voice in how we move forward together. As the reality of the situation sank in, the ballroom filled with applause, tears, and the sound of employees finally feeling heard and valued by their leadership. 1 year later, the Davidson Industries annual holiday party looked very different from the previous year's event. The venue was the same elegant ballroom, but the atmosphere had been transformed from a hierarchical display of corporate power into a genuine celebration of community and shared success. Michael Davidson stood at the front of the room, no longer disguised as a dishwasher, but wearing his role as CEO with the humility and wisdom he had gained from his months of undercover work. Welcome to our annual celebration, Michael began, his voice carrying easily through the room. This year, we're not just celebrating financial success though our profits are up 37%. We're celebrating the culture we've built together over the past 12 months. The applause was genuine and enthusiastic, coming from employees at every level who had experienced the dramatic positive changes Michael had implemented. Since revealing his identity, I want to start by recognizing some special achievements, Michael continued. Maria Santos, who also happens to be my mother, has been promoted to Director of Sustainability. Her recycling program has not only saved the company over $800,000 this year, but has served as a model for other corporations nationwide. Maria beamed with pride as she stood to acknowledge the applause, wearing an elegant dress that her son had helped her choose, and that she could now afford on her director's salary. Tony Martinez, Michael continued, has been promoted to Director of Event Operations, overseeing all corporate functions and client events. His innovation and dedication have helped us win 3 major new contracts this year. Throughout the room, similar stories unfolded as Michael recognized employees who had been promoted, awarded bonuses, or given opportunities they never would have received under the previous management structure. But the most important change we've made, Michael said, isn't about individual promotions or financial rewards. It's about creating a company where every person feels valued, heard, and respected for their contributions. Jennifer Walsh, now promoted to Vice President of Human Resources, stepped forward with a microphone. Michael, would you like to share some of the specific changes we've implemented? Absolutely. Michael replied, we've established employee councils at every level, giving everyone a voice in company decisions. We've implemented profit sharing, programs that ensure when the company succeeds, everyone benefits. We've created educational reimbursement programs, mental health support, and flexible work arrangements that recognize that our employees have lives outside of work. Robert Chen, who had remained as crew and become one of Michael's most trusted advisors, added, "We've also seen remarkable results from these changes. Employee turnover is down 60%, productivity is up, and our customer satisfaction scores have reached all-time highs." Most importantly, Michael said, looking around the room at faces that reflected engagement, happiness, and genuine pride in their work, "We've proven that treating people with dignity and respect isn't just the right thing to do, it's good business." As the evening progressed, Michael found himself in conversation with employees from every department, discussing not just work but their families, their dreams, and their ideas for making the company even better. Michael, his mother approached him during a quiet moment. "I need to ask you something that's been on my mind all year." "What's that, Mom?" "Why didn't you tell me who you really were? Why did you let me work so hard when you could have provided for us?" Michael considered the question carefully. "Because if I had told you, everything would have been different. You wouldn't have worked with the same pride and dedication. I wouldn't have learned what it really means to earn respect, rather than inherit it, and we never would have discovered how strong our relationship was when it was built on who we really are, not what we own." Maria nodded thoughtfully. "And what did you learn from washing dishes and taking out trash?" "I learned that every job has dignity when it's done with pride. I learned that the people doing the hardest work often have the best ideas for improving things, and I learned that being a good leader means serving others, not the other way around." As the party wound down, Michael stood once again before his employees for a final announcement. "Next year," he said, "we're going to do something different for our holiday celebration. Instead of just having a party for ourselves, we're going to host a community service day. We'll use our resources to help local families, support education programs, and give back to the community that has supported our success." And he added with a smile, "I'll be participating right alongside all of you, not as the CEO watching from above, but as a member of this team, working side by side to make a difference." The applause that followed was more than appreciation. For a good leader, it was recognition that they had all been part of something larger than themselves, a transformation that had proven business could be both profitable and humane. As employees began to leave, many stopped to thank Michael personally for the changes he had brought to their lives. But perhaps the most meaningful moment came when Tony Martinez, now Director of Event Operations, pulled Michael aside. "You know," Tony said, "last year, when that executive wanted to throw me out of the party, I thought about quitting. I felt so humiliated and worthless. But watching you stand up for me even when I thought you were just another dishwasher, that gave me hope that maybe things could change." "And now?" Michael asked. Tony grinned. "Now I know that the best leaders are the ones who remember what it's like to be where we've been." As Michael drove home that night, he reflected on the journey that had brought him from undercover dishwasher to authentic leader. The expensive suit he now wore felt no more important than the stained apron he had worn a year ago, because he had learned that true success wasn't measured by what you owned, but by how many lives you improved along the way. The annual employee party had indeed revealed who he really was, not just to his employees, but to himself.